If I had been a man of violence, I would have either punched her in the nose or slammed the door in her face. But since I had already agreed to her phone call to come up to my suite at the Pensacola Hotel, I simply closed the door and went to sit down in a chair at the other part of the room. She came close to me. She asked, "Are you glad to see me?" I said, "No." She said, "May I sit in your lap?" I said, "If you want to." She sat on my lap. She said, "Would you like to kiss me?" I said, "No." It's true, she was a beautiful young woman, but I was much too angry at her to want to kiss her. She said, "Mother is in the hotel with me. Would you like to see her?" I said, "No." Finally, I stood up, and so she had to stand up as well. I said, "This meeting is over." I opened the door for her, and she left. All of this began in my junior year at medical school. The sorority always had a dance at the fraternity house where new fraternity members and those who lived at the house could get to know each other and have a good time. I had called her on a blind date, but she said, "I don't go to fraternity house dances, and I don't go out on blind dates. Would you like to come out here and visit me?" I thought I had nothing to lose, so I took a streetcar out to the west side of St. Louis. I met her mother, and I met her. She was a beautiful young woman, and I was thrilled to see somebody very desirable on my first date. Over the next year or more, we spent a lot of time together. I visited with her family, met her father, a delightful man, and it was clear that we were going to get closer and eventually be engaged. That took place at the end of my junior year. Mother and Dad came down for an engagement party. I gave her a ring. I also took her up to Aliquippa to meet family. Some members of the family did not like her. Others were non-committal, but we went back to St. Louis. During the summer of my junior year, I went to work at the Allegheny General Hospital Clinic, and at the senior year back at St. Louis, I began dating her again. Within a couple months, she turned to me on one of our dates and said, "Here's your ring and the blouse you gave me as a gift. Our engagement is over." I was crushed. I asked her, "What's going on? What happened? What did I do wrong?" She said, "Nothing. I just don't want to be engaged to you anymore." It was a bad time for me for the rest of the senior year. I spent time in New Mexico with a fraternity brother, getting over some of my hurt feelings. Went back to my internship, joined the service as a physician. I went down to Eglinfield, Florida. On weekends, there wasn't much of interest in Eglinfield. It was a lot of sand and scorpions and airplanes. So I started going into Pensacola. I met up with a young couple who invited me to join them for each weekend, where I joined them for meals and discussion of the war. And I enjoyed their company. It helped some of my misery. It was there that I got a call from Naomi. I told my friends and they said, "We'll vacate the apartment. It's all yours. You can have it for that night and the following day." Nothing turned out about that, but I was always curious. How did Naomi know that I was at the Pensacola Hotel? It turned out that Dad visited her father in St. Louis and asked him, what happened? Why did she break off? Mr. Leonson, a delightful human being, said, "When I appeared, Naomi was going with a young gentleman, and we wanted to break that off. We encouraged her to go with Dan, and she finally realized she missed her Gentile friend and broke off the engagement." It was around that time that she called Dad and said, "I'd like to see Dan." And she wheedled him enough so that he told her where I was. And so the whole thing dissolved. I realized her leaving me was the best thing ever. If we had ever been married, it wouldn't have been taken many months until our marriage would have been a shambles.